We usually do our news after we kind of do our general chit-chatting, but we felt like this was a pretty important story that we needed to talk about initially. And I'm speaking, of course, about, I think, to put it gently, I think to put it the most accurately, um, just the games and honestly the comics industry too are going through what feels like a tidal wave of allegations of sexual harassment and abuse in the workplace.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see the I'm sure we'll discuss this as we keep going on, but like this sort of delayed Me Too movement going on in the games industry. There was a big push in film and TV and in a lot of other industries, a year or so ago. But it seemed like the games industry was pretty well insulated from that. But in the last few week or two here, things have really started to now boil over in the games industry, and a lot of reports of sexual misconduct and hostile work environments for women, and lots of people have been really coming to a head at a lot of major studios and developers.
Yeah, like just for example, the creative director, following accusations of multiple extramarital affairs with younger fans, has stepped down as the like I said, he was the creative director of the Assassin's Creed Valhalla release coming this fall. Chris Avallone, who is the writer of Fallout New Vegas and is a pretty well known figure in like gaming circles as far as like writing for he's like one of the guys who's been around forever. He had some allegations of being a harassing shithead, and he got called out for it. And I think obviously there's as a blank check. I'm gonna say that we stand with the victims of all. We stand in solidarity with the victims of all harassment in this case, and this is obviously unacceptable and is not. It's just, I'm not going to go out and say like, how does this keep happening? Because like, that's just how this shit just happens, and it sucks. And these people like need to be held accountable for their actions, because that just is the fair thing to do.
It's coming at all levels too. Did you guys see that 2 Ubisoft executives just like stepped down after allegations? Like, whoa, that's straight to the top. And in the report for them stepping down, apparently they have been reported on from the Ubisoft HR for years. And the Ubisoft HR went out of its way to just sweep it under the rug, and I guess it all just came to a head because too many people came forward at too few days in between. That's fucked, right?
Yeah.
Jim Sterling did a whole video. Well, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mike.
And even just minutes before we were about to record this, some allegations came out against the one of the leaders of Evo, the fighting game tournament, and some pretty serious accusations there. There was accusations of a Smash Bros. Tournament player who has had some very inappropriate conduct as well. And because of that, already Marvel, or not Marvel, Capcom and NetherRealm have said that they are not participating in EVO because of this. So I imagine we're going to see it, a tidal wave of like, if how are you going to have an EVO without? I've seen a couple of fighting game teams and groups already say that they weren't going to be attending because of this. So it's really it's crazy to see like how quickly that like Capcom and NetherRealm like responded to this, which was I guess heartening in a weird way.
Well, they all was already. Sorry.
EVO was already going to be weird this year because the in-person event is canceled, obviously with the coronavirus. But even still, it's Like, yeah, it's interesting to see them respond to this so quickly.
I mean, this is one of those situations where, regardless of you, if you take the cynical view of like they don't want to be part of the PR nightmare of being tied to Evo right now as this all shakes out, or you take the optimist view of like they legitimately want to stand in solidarity with the people who have brought these allegations forward.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, it shines a light on folks who tend to commit these acts and say you cannot hide, or the culture that allowed for this to continue for decades in the games industry in all really facets of life is not going to stand anymore. You know, it's one of those, if you fuck up and you do these terrible things, there will be real consequences for it, both, you know, financially at a company level and also, you know, potentially personally through litigation and criminal
yeah, because I mean that's what because I don't want to undersell the actions here. I think part of the reason why the reaction around Evo was so quick, because the CEO of Evo has been accused of paying underage people for pictures, and which is like, that is criminal. That is like, what the fuck?
That's something that's 100% illegal in every respect, and that's
and it's
very serious allegation.
Exactly, and it's just, so I appreciate, like, I think it is, you know, it's kind of disheartening to see how, you know, how much work we have to do, but I think in things like this, knowing how far we have to go and knowing how much needs to be done to support women, LGBTQ, people of color in like workplaces like this, you know, in games and games media and everything like that. I think knowing how much work we have to do is better than thinking everything's fine when it's absolutely not the case.
So I want to talk on that topic a tiny bit. There's the narrative that's been going around for the past, I want to say, like, couple years of like too many people are involved with the concept of cancel culture, which is you found up doing something where you fucked up once or twice in your life, or hell, you decided to get on Twitter in 2009 and you didn't know what a filter was. You didn't have an emotional or a word filter. Y'all know who I'm talking about. I don't need to drop names. Josh. I'm joking. That's 100% a joke. I don't even know if Josh had a Twitter in like 2 years ago. I don't think he did.
I should probably go delete some old tweets because they're honestly probably just like cringe.
Most of mine are probably really bad, just song lyrics that I did. You know, nothing too sad.
Hell yeah.
You know, just like ugh.
Mine are probably just like ugh finals.
Taylor Swift, you can explain my emotions the best here.
I will own up that I absolutely 100% deleted my MySpace. Like, once someone at work said, "What's with these cringy pictures you have?" And I'm like, yeah, that's gone. That's immediately gone. And I actually advise that. I co-sign everyone to delete their MySpace right here, right now. Because tell you what, if you're in my age group, it ain't good. None of it was probably good. You probably said some dumb shit.
Man, I remember the MySpace, like the debate I was having was like, man, do I have to put my family at the top of my best friends list?
Oh my gosh.
Will I get in trouble if I don't?
Like, I forgot that.
Katie was my sister's so annoying. Do I have to put her at the top of my list?
I don't think I had my family at the top of my list.
I did not.
Oh, okay.
No, my family was not.
Okay. I felt bad about it.
I think that was a point of contention in my household. But, you know.
But the thing I was getting at is people will look at old shit like that and say like, oh, this person said this back in like 2006. They gone, and you know, leave it at that. Or something more important, like this is where cancel culture kind of turns the wheel. Someone like sexually abused someone and they kept doing it, and they did it within their own power of rank and structure in the community. Yeah, that's not cancel culture. That's
being held accountable for your fucked up actions.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't like when people lump this in with cancel culture.
Yeah.
There is something to be said about digging up someone's dumb shit that they did like when they were 23 or 19 or 16 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so and kind of extrapolate that and kind of going into just into media in general. Like, I don't know how much you guys followed any of the stuff that has been happening at Condé Nast and specifically like Bon Appetit in the last couple of weeks here.
No, I have not.
So I'm a huge Bon Appetit fan. Really brought up my cooking game in the last year or so. Love their YouTube content. Their holiday issue is what I cooked for Thanksgiving and Christmas this year. Like, it's been a pretty important part of my life. The editor-in-chief, Adam Rappaport, a few weeks ago, there was a picture that surfaced of him from 10 years ago or so, dressed, as a Puerto Rican for Halloween. In and of itself, a cringy picture, inappropriate. But on top of that, there were lots of allegations of a culture of sexism and racism that happened at Bon Appetit and Condé Nast.
And just not paying people of color who are on camera the same way they were paying.
Yeah, basically making token hires to bring on camera to show like, oh, we have a diverse group of editors and contributors here, and look at all the people of color that are on screen. But not a single one of those people of color had a named show or a contract or were actually compensated for their time. Like, they did a whole Thanksgiving episode series, and the one non-white person on that series was not compensated for her time on that 5-episode show. It's one thing to say like, oh, hey, cancel culture is trying to get somebody fired who did, some sort of inappropriate racist things 10 years ago. It's another when that is tied to allegations and evidentiary,
immediate, direct, compensation changes.
Yeah, and I am the editor-in-chief, and people hire in Condé Nast as the organization over all of these magazines and media who are perpetuating a racist, sexist, unfair working environment. Just kind of goes. It's one of those other things that says like, okay, this is just showing who this person is. It's not just saying, hey, they were dumb and in the 2000s and didn't know what social media was. It's just, this is just the kind of person that they are, and they don't have any business serving in a position of power, continuing. There are plenty of other people out there who could do their job better without these undertones of racism and sexism, rather than just saying like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to change. Like, you had your shot and you lost it. Get out.
You're absolutely right. This is completely different from the other. Actually, I'll use a recent example. So there is a news story, and it actually happened in Ohio, so closer to some people here. It was a guy went to a Little Caesars to pick up a pepperoni hot and ready, like you do. I did it last week. Sometimes you gotta have the slop, okay? I'm not gonna say it's good pizza. Yeah, you paid $6.
Ready.
Exactly. You paid $6 for that pie. Don't expect anything great from it. You're getting the pizza.
It has real cheese.
It might have something called cheese on it. Tell you what.
Pizza has a high floor anyway.
Little Caesars did nothing to me to warrant us dunking on them for a solid minute. I'm sorry, guys.
Anyway, this is a full-throated endorsement. This is not dunking in the slightest.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so guy goes, picks up a hot and ready from his family, pays his $6-7, gets out, brings it home. What's he find? The pepperonis are in the shape of a swastika. Let's talk about that. Now, this is something where this is on topic of those two people that were working that Little Caesars, yes, they were fired. Mike can't help himself.
Yeah, sorry, that was my bad, guys. I forgot about that. I forgot I did that.
Don't get me wrong, it's hilarious. Because he said him and his wife were just aghast At
Like, can we just pause for a second and just like imagine yourself in that situation?
No, I can't.
You come home with hot and ready, and you're like, "All right, fam, let's fucking have our pizza Nazis."
Not so. He said him and his wife were aghast and they didn't know what to do for a full 30 seconds.
Just
Okay,
the pure
question,
the whiplash is insane.
Do you eat the swastika?
Maybe you like move the pepperoni around a little bit, just so you don't have to like think about it that much, but you still eat it.
So here's
or ask for another one.
So okay, I'm glad you got to that. They immediately tried to call the restaurant they got it from because that's understandable. But they picked up the hot and ready at like 10 p.m., so the restaurant was already closed. So they posted it on social media, because that went well, I'm sure, for the Little Caesars social media team. VP of the company calls the store where they got it from. The two people that did it, they owned up to it. Fired on the spot, obviously. Obviously.
You got to go, buddy.
But here's something interesting. They didn't release the names of the people that they fired. And I hope they don't, because I bet they were kids. And this is what I was getting at. These are two probably idiots that might grow up to be contributing members of society. And there's a strong argument to say that your brain isn't even done developing until you're 25 years old. So I want to, in my heart of heart, believes that these were two edgelord kids, whether they're male or female.
For the memes.
Yeah, and they're doing it for the memes, and they probably posted it to 4chan or something like that, and then like, lol, got fired, I don't have a job during a pandemic. Like, I don't know, they're probably hurting from that, who knows, but that's the type of people where I'm like, yes, those people don't need to be canceled per se, even though it was hyper recent. I'm hoping that they were just like, dumb kids.
I think like sometimes, like I really don't want to go on a whole diatribe about like quote cancel culture unquote, because that's the boring shit possible. But like, I think at a certain point, like, you know, if you get canceled, like, and you get fired from your job, like, can you get a new job, or does the new company just have to fire you again? Like, are you just expected to not make any sort of living anymore? Like, I think that there's definitely I think you have to go into kind of like a, I mean, there's like a lot of stuff to dig into here. Like, I think, you know, I guess I kind of understand like when people talk out of like the side of their mouth or say something stupid on Twitter, and part of their job is being a Twitter personality, and then they get fired for it. Like, I feel bad for them, but like your job is to like write the New York Times food blog, and when you say dumb, like when you say dumb things about famous people who do cooking stuff, that's a good way that will get you fired.
Yeah, that's
so it's just job. And I think you have to. There's also a difference again, like between, yeah, I guess just to, like circle back, you know, there's the really easy solution to, the easiest solution to solving harassment in the workplace is for people to stop being sex pests. The second easiest solution, if people refuse to stop being sex pests, is for people to report the sex pests so they get fired for being sex pests.
No, I want to go a step further. Everything you said was true. I want to add on to that. HR accountability. There apparently is a large breakdown with human resources that have been just like Riot's bad about this. Ubisoft is bad about this. Apparently, what's the name of the studio that just made The Last of Us? It's escaping me at the moment.
Naughty Dog.
Apparently, they have really bad culture about this as well. When people are, BioWare. When people are having, what is it? They're getting stress casualties. That's it. Where they're just falling out and they're reserving a meeting room in Outlook just to cry. It's like your job as HR is to stop this bullshit, and there's a failure there at that point.
I think at a certain point, I think you like part of the challenge with like as I said, report sex pests. Like part of the challenge of that is the fact that HR is there to protect the company, and and especially if if the person who is harassing you or worse at your workplace is a higher up who HR doesn't HR like makes the cost benefit analysis there, and it's like, oh, well, let's get rid of the little person and not the big person here, which is super fucked up, and is a problem across every industry, every workplace, from top to bottom. And that is, I think that is one of the hardest parts of kind of shaping that, like, shaping kind of like the Me Too movement into broader actionable changes for working women, is how do you take on the company HR without getting fired and losing your livelihood. And that is, I think, one of the biggest challenges of fixing a lot of this culture.
I got an idea for this, and this is based on one of the companies I worked for before. I won't say who, but they had it so that the HR person, they were in the office every day. You saw them every day. They had their door. They had the open door policy, so long as they weren't with someone. But that HR person did not work for that company. They actually worked for they were considered a business partner, and they were part of a third-party group. So the HR strictly did not collect a check from the company that they were overseeing. That way, it didn't create that feedback loop that you're talking about, which does absolutely exist, 100%. And this was just a way that they went about tackling it, just to prevent that. And I thought that's really smart.
I feel like something like that is pretty smart. It was definitely a good first step.
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely one of those situations where having a neutral third party, or as neutral as you can, is a really beneficial, because they don't have any loyalty to anybody. They just have a job and a duty to do what is right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is one of those moments where I think more and more industries are just tackling the fact that people are recognizing that they have a voice, and that there are platforms to share their stories, share their experiences, not just of sexual misconduct or gender disparity, but also racial disparities, pay disparities. Everything is coming to a head across multiple industries, and this is a really good time to just say, like, hey, share your story, don't stay silent, work with your coworkers and share your salaries, and find out what each other makes. I work in a very unique industry with being in sales. Like, we all know how much everybody makes, because like we all just make the same amount based on however much we sell. Like, we make the same percentage essentially. And like, but more people should know what their coworkers make, because not every job is like mine, where the more the better you are at negotiating, either on your own behalf or collectively. And saying like, hey, we all deserve better, or this group of my colleagues deserve better. They deserve the same as me at the very least. That kind of conversation about pay, about race, about sexuality and sexual misconduct and sexual assault, like all of those conversations are something that we need to be open to, listening to, and acting upon in
and
all areas of life.
Yeah, and I think like a kind of final thought I have on this, like, definitely like I was gonna say, like, workers should collectivize, but I mean, even if you're on the more management end, like, do you know what's a great way to not have your ass hanging out on Twitter when something dumb happens about your company? Is like, if you have a diverse staff and diverse workforce, they'll catch a lot of the stupid stuff that you think is okay, because that's what their experience is. Like, having, I don't necessarily know this, but like, Miles Morales' hair looks really good in the new Spider-Man trailer, and it did not look that way in the first Spider-Man game. So I don't want to make any assumptions here, but I feel like some people of color took a look at that and were like, no, this is how you have to like model hair correctly for like people who are black. There's a different way you build this. But like, it's a great preventative, because having a more diverse staff will will catch a lot of this, and this shitty culture, dumb decisions will nip a lot of this stuff in the bud. And I don't think you should have a monetary justification for having a diverse and and a happy culture in your workplace. But it's pretty good for your bottom line when you're not getting dragged on Twitter for something that was completely preventable.
You'll also just get better stories and better art and better media because you are having a more diverse and more robust voice. Maybe you capture a part of the market and an audience that you never did before because you're telling the story about somebody who's never seen their story portrayed in media before, because it's, there weren't as many people telling that story. Like,
exactly.
Diversity and inclusion just makes everybody better because we all come from different backgrounds and have different experiences and different stories to share. And when people are given the opportunity to do that, it's only good for everybody.
I agree. Like, I'm going to disagree with any of that.
Yeah, Ray, what you going to say about that, huh?
Yeah, I'm the one that's against diversity in the workplace.
Yeah, wow.
I don't get it.
Josh, you're canceled. Well, I think that was pretty good bow on that, for at least for now, of this continuing discussion. We'll probably talk more, as I bet we'll have. Evo is probably just going to be full on canceled by the time you hear this. We'll see.
Yeah, Ray's going to get this done, and Evo's going to put out an announcement. Yeah, so we fucked up, and not this year.
So everyone pause. Ray edited in a separate part after the fact to note that Evo was in fact canceled right in that clip you just heard. So,
oh my gosh. I do want to say that an Evo without Street Fighter, that's not Evo. There's been
exactly
the reason why Evo exists is because of Street Fighter. That's I was okay with no Smash Brothers because that only made sense.
God, that netcode, man.
It's so bad.
The Lucina just went through my sword. What is that?
You guys don't know what we're talking about, but Mike was online and he shared with us a clip.
I'll have to tweet that from our account just so people know the horror.
Please do.
I'll do that.
But no, Mortal Kombat 11 I'm actually okay with because I don't consider that a fighting game. Come at me, fight me. But no Street Fighter. That's where I consider
Smash Bros. A fighting game, but not Mortal Kombat. Oh, that's a
hot that's the hottest it takes, I guess, because
that's a take.
This is a hill I'm willing to die on. Also, I will consider
I'm
Smash
pretty
Brothers.
Sure you will die on that. You're right. That is a hill you will die on.
I didn't know we started the bad take hour here at Unscripted Gaming.
You mean the best take hour? No, I absolutely will consider Smash Brothers more of a fighting game than Mortal Kombat 11.
What's more of a fighting game, Mortal Kombat or Mario Party?
Oh, Mortal Kombat, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's a line, sir.
What's a better fighting game, Backyard Baseball or Mortal Kombat?
Okay, again, it's Mortal Kombat. Listen, when I say Mortal Kombat is not the same fighting game as Smash Brothers, I mean Smash Brothers is way more of a better fighting game than Mortal Kombat 11 specifically.
I didn't know Ray was going to find a way to get himself canceled, but
come at me. No, I actually.
11 is so good though.
There's never been a Mortal Kombat game I played that I liked.
Smash Bros. Damn, that's crazy.
I
was just trying to calibrate. I was just okay. What's a better fighting game, Solitaire or Mortal Kombat?
I will admit that all the games you listed before, except Mario Party, because I fucking hate every Mario Party game that's ever been made. All of those games that you have already mentioned, I would rather play than any Mortal Kombat game. I don't like them as a fighting game. That's just me. I think they are very bad fighting games. Street Fighter all day long.
You're among friends here. who hurt you in Mortal Kombat that gave you such a bad feeling about it?
No, I hate the button combinations. I hate the spacing. I hate the combos that it does. I hate the jumping physics. I despise the jumping physics in every Mortal Kombat game. Just hate them so much.
I definitely like prefer the more traditional, like, you know, Street Fighter style of input, but
yeah, I can't.
That's a take, man. That's
for our
something.
new feature. Josh makes Ray play through every single Mortal Kombat, including the standalone single player game.
I thought you were gonna say the movie. I'm like,
this actually goes back to the topic of workplace
the movie's
abuse.
Actually really good.
So the Mortal Kombat fits into this. To work at NetherRealm Studios and to be one of their character artists, they don't force you, but they highly, highly, highly advise that you watch actual gratuitous death where people are dying on the camera.
Yeah.
To properly model the gratuitous X-ray death scenes and fatalities in Mortal Kombat games. Yeah, I don't know how many years they've been doing this, but they've been doing it for a long time, and there have been mass reports of workplace PTSD because, fuck, man.
Yeah. It's just like, imagine like logging into your like work intranet and your homepage is live leak.
Like, don't get me
that. Another day at the office.
Don't get me wrong, I've seen some fucked up videos on the internet. Like, I might have seen a okay.
Right.
I'm just telling you one example that most people have seen.
Okay.
In 2007, I saw the video of Saddam Hussein getting hung. Most people have seen
that. Yeah, they put that on CNN. That's fine.
Did they really?
I don't know.
I think they at least played up like the build up to it. I don't know if they actually showed the actual act, but you know.
But I'm saying, like, if you constantly watch videos of people getting, you know, killed, that fucks with you after a while. And doing that to make a fucking video game, that's not worth it. That's never worth it.
Yeah.
So that, I don't know. That's going back to the workplace abuse type of thing. I think that's once again, to my hatred of Mortal Kombat, it fucks with people. I didn't even know that. That just adds on top of the pile.
Yeah, like well, it's better than like, you know, at Nintendo to make Smash Bros. They force you to play Star Fox. It's a horrifying procedure.
You have you have to play Star Fox Zero. Oh, I'm the only one here that's played that, haven't I? Oh, I'm the only one that suffered.
I didn't have a Wii U.
Don't play.
I missed the Mii first.
I missed the Mii music. It was cute.
Well, folks, what kind of games have you guys been playing lately?
Actually, before we get into that, since we're like 40 minutes into this,
I
want to talk about the two pieces of gaming news I have here. One of them Mike brought up, and one of them Josh brought up. So we're kind of switch hitting here.
Yeah.
So first one, the one Josh brought up, kind of Mike brought it up. NBA 2K 21 is gonna experiment with a $70 game. I'm like, yeah, okay, here we go.
PS5 and Xbox One.
Here we go. Someone's gonna try it, and you know what? As I was telling you guys before, this might be the only company that actually tries it and probably gets away with it.
I think that this is going to be, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, depending on what angle you're talking about it, probably a new normal. I want to say, wasn't it the PS1 to PS2 Switch era when PS1 games were like $49.99, and I think, you know, N64 games were like $49.99, but then PS2 games and GameCube games went to $59.99. Like I feel like that was the year when that happened.
No, I could tell you exactly when that happened because it broke news, much like we're talking about this $70 hike right now. Gears of War on the Xbox 360 was the first game to charge $60 for a game. Post the SNES era, because remember in the SNES days, those cartridges were not cheap. The original
often $80.
Yes, the original Star Fox was $80 to $90. People forget this.
To be fair, Star Fox had an extra graphics chip on the cartridge, so you know.
You're not wrong, and that did for new technology at the time that does justify something, but on disc format it doesn't mean anything. Yeah, and how Cliff Blazinski pitched it is you're not just getting a $60 game, you're getting a $60 premium experience that you've never experienced before. Well worth the extra $10 that you paid. Credit to him, it worked.
Well worth.
It became a $1 billion franchise, so who am I to shit talk him?
Yeah, right.
In his giant mansion and private jet. Yeah, Clippy B is gonna listen to anything I'm gonna fucking say.
Yeah, I mean, on one hand, I'm of the mind of like, we are increasingly asking for, on the console side at least, cheaper boxes and more affordable boxes, but more powerful boxes that these companies are often taking very low profit margin or losses on, asking for more online services, asking for companies to maintain games longer, whether or not that's through a subscription of some kind, through a season pass, anything like that. And those prices have been steady for 10, 15, 20 years now. Like, how many other prices can you think of in your life that have remained that constant for that long? For your typical item, your typical AAA video game, most other things in your life don't stay that constant price, or if they do, typically the company makes less of it, or something, the quality changes in some way if you're going to keep paying the same price over an extended period of time. And ostensibly games have gotten more complex, they've gotten bigger, they've gotten more
people just expect more out of them,
more gorgeous. They people play the game that they get longer typically now, so like you're asking to get more mileage out of it. So on one hand I'm like, $10 more, that's sucks, but also on the other hand I'm like, it kind of makes sense and is probably a little overdue for the industry.
A retort. And my retort is, 1, 2K is not a broke company. They're doing pretty alright. 2, this is not the game series where you need to make the case that they're having low profit margins. NBA 2K games charge you actual money for haircuts of your players. I don't want to hear about how they're going broke for $60. No. As a matter of fact, this is the same game. Hold on, let me finish real quick. This is the same game where last year they were advertising it with a trailer and they actually had slot machines. Actual fucking slot machines. Blackjack. They had like casino things, and you're like, yeah, this is what they're coming in. Loot boxes and everything. What they do is they just what certain larger games will do is they'll just microtransaction it to the hilt, to where you're not even getting a full experience anymore. You get like a basketball game and the shell of it. So
yeah, like I think that's the part of this that like, I think like I agree with like what Josh said. It's been 15 years since it jumped from 50 to 60. I'm no expert in inflation, but I have a feeling that $70 in 2020 is probably still pretty close to $60 in 2005. But I think definitely it does kind of sting, just because I think so many games are built around are built. I think it's almost kind of harsh that it's almost kind of rude that 2K is the first example here, because they have notoriously leaned in super hard into microtransaction stuff. But kind of like what I was saying earlier about this, and like what Josh said, like more people, I feel like people play fewer. It almost seems like this kind of pricing, and especially while continuing, because I'm not going to be like, oh, like now that we can sell games for 70 or for like $70, now we don't need microtransactions anymore. Like they're not gonna turn that off. It's like, no. It's almost like this is like a kind of like a pivot to like finding like kind of building like the long-term player. for your game. Like that's who they're that's how they're kind of pivoting this towards. Like it's not about like how many copies you sell in the first 2 weeks anymore. It's about like the longevity of it and how many people you have checking in weekly, how many people you buying the microtransactions, how many people you get on the season pass. Like,
yeah, well, so I don't want to sound like I was completely like positive on this. Like I'm definitely not. Like I can understand in one sense where this is coming from, but like the cynical side of me is like, 2K is doing this with the basketball game because that's something that's guaranteed to sell. So like when you see something like this still selling gangbusters at $70 a pop, that just gives other people, the kind of green light to start doing that on other games and at other developers and publishers. I'm also kind of cynical of like, I understand that like the whole Kobe died this year thing, really big for basketball and sports, but having the Kobe, the Mamba edition featuring a big poster of Kobe Bryant for $100, like, they're going to sell a lot of that. And like, again, there's a part of me where like, yes, you want to honor Kobe and his legacy and what he did for the game, but also like, you can't just help be cynical about like,
I think
just profiting off of his memory during a global pandemic where people are looking for any sort of comfort and any sort of normalcy in their lives. So like, people's budgets are tighter than they've ever been, but they're gonna want the Kobe edition, and they're gonna want something to make them feel better during all this. So like, it just
and I think
it feels nasty.
I think also because I am very skeptical that an increase of the assuming like the revenue does increase of a game sale, like say the game, a game hypothetically sells the same number of copies, so there's more revenue. I'm going to assume that doesn't necessarily translate into a massive take home for a lot of the workers and devs who are, notoriously crunched in across the industry. I think that is, I guess I'm really curious to see like if this will become standard, like how that kind of plays out.
I think it's brave. Yeah, I'm going to steal the Apple phrase. It's so brave of them to have a price hike of games during a recession. Don't get me wrong, not everyone is feeling the impacts of the recession, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people that played 2K on the DL, they probably wouldn't want to pay an extra $10 for one of their favorite game series, Yeah. For nothing else.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I mean, maybe the PS5 and the Xbox Series X will all tank, and everybody will still keep playing on their PS4s and their Xbox Ones. I mean, I doubt it, but you never know.
That would be a fun twist.
Yeah,
that would be an interesting twist. Next story I saw here, actually Mike brought this up. Amazon Games actually released 2 games relatively recently. New World, I take that back. I don't think New World is actually out yet, but it did release a game called Crucible, and last time the Steam count of this game was checked, it was at 160 players. So, not doing great. And they took it back from release back to closed beta. If you own the game Crucible, you actually are in the closed beta, so you can give the developers feedback. So you and the 160 people and
159 other people.
You and the boys.
That's awful. You guys
game dev. They have an AMA on the subreddit, and the game dev logs in. There's like 3 people, and he's like, "Hello, sharks."
Look,
that all those 160 some odd people all need to get credit on the game once it actually comes back out, if it ever does.
Yeah,
they're developers at this point.
It's kind of impressive. I'm not gonna lie that like Amazon made a video game, and this is basically the first thing I've heard about this ever.
They had no marketing push.
It's almost like it's like they kind of just did this to like get like a studio and build some sort of tech or something. Like,
I mean,
I'm gonna assume that this has just been a huge write off for them anyway. Like, yeah, I mean, that's the only logical explanation.
Was it what was their logic? Was it a proof of concept for Amazon Lumberyard? I think was their like game development platform.
No. So the game was being made in earnest. Like, they've been working on this game for 3 years. You can go back and see some E3 announcement about it and see them, like, working on character models. You know those trailers where they show off the devs just kind of working on the game passively in the background.
Yeah, I just don't recall this at all.
The scuttlebutt, I know, because it probably flew under your radar like it flew under everyone's radar. You're not the only one, trust me. The scuttlebutt is that with everyone staying in their homes and them noticing that, oh my gosh, people are staying inside playing video games are making gangbuster money, release it now. Clearly it's not done. It was not a finished game at all. So this is what we got. People got in, people played it, and some people said, I'd like to have my money back, please. It looks good. Amazon Lumberyard is not a horrible looking engine, and congrats on making it look good. The game's not balanced. There's a squirrel or bunny type character. If you've ever played a MOBA before, some of the lingo I may use maybe
a Teemo.
Kind of, yeah. It's kind of like the Yordle, everyone's favorite Yordle Teemo. Except they actually can warp, and there's no cooldown on their warp from going from one section of the map to the other. And they apply a dot to you, a damage over time effect from their gun. So like warp, and they're just all over the map. And one reviewer had this video footage playing, and he said, "What is wrong with this character? Why would you not pick this character? Give me a reason why." And so there's their basic mode, which only has 3 enemy types in it. That's it. It has a giant rhino, it has a flying bug, and it has like a stationary bug. But that's it. It has 3 enemy types, and you play whole 40-minute matches like that. It has a
40-minute. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's a MOBA type game. They can last a minute. There is a 2v2v2v2. It's an 8-player battle royale. I don't know what they were thinking with that one.
That's just called Team Deathmatch.
Yeah, but you can't respawn. Ha-ha!
So then it's just 4-team Counter-Strike.
Yeah, basically. Except there are 2 people, and it's very, very not interesting. And then there's a regular deathmatch mode. And none of them all work well with the character kits are not balanced to any specific mode. So when you have 3 completely different frames of mind, some character kits make more sense in one mode than the other. For instance, if we were playing Overwatch, just a game everyone's familiar with, I would never take Bastion into a Battle Royale mode. That's dumb. That is the worst possible pick. I would clearly pick like Soldier 76 or Farah.
No, you can't pick Bastion for Death Battle Royale. That's how do you survive on your own? How you can't do that? You have no healing. Haha, Bastion go brrr.
That Bastion heals very easily. But
he does have a heal. That's right.
Yes, he does.
No, that's so broke. God,
yeah, Bastion's great in Overwatch. Overwatch's regular ass mode. He's my favorite character.
I'm gonna say this, and it hurts my soul, but Ganondorf is the Bastion of Smash. He really is, and it hurts my soul, but it's true.
Can you imagine if Ganondorf had like some really difficult to pull off self-heal? That would be awful.
You made my heart stop. Don't do that.
Ganondorf like, ha! And he threw down a bottle with a fairy in it, and he got some health. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Thanks. I hate it.
Good luck to the folks at Amazon for making Anthem 2.
Seriously, I hope they do re-release Crucible. By the way, give it another name. Anytime you Google search Crucible game, you're getting Destiny. What were you guys thinking? Every time I hear Crucible, I think Shaxx, and that's the correct thing to do. We hear otherwise.
Yes, the Chad Shacks, as we all know and love him.
Brightly colored helmet so you can see your death coming. Made it with royalty. What did the Drifter do? Gets cucked by the 9 on the regular.
Yeah, hey, it's really tragic.
But he's not an agent
okay?
of Savathun, so he's
he's not. He's smart enough to not have a ancient evil dragon skull above him that is whispering sweet nothings to him.
Okay, while we're on Destiny lore, Destiny does this thing, and I feel like Mike has fallen for it hard. Destiny always threatens to do something super interesting, and they never do it. They never carry that ball over the line.
I want to say something about that.
Okay.
So I did want to actually talk a little bit about Destiny because
please,
the big new thing, I guess, like the big kind of content drop this season is like a new dungeon. Dungeons are like 3-player raids basically. And there's a new dungeon out, and this one's called Prophecy. And it kind of takes place in like a 9 style realm, and there's a lot of weird, trippy, like kind of very like ethereal. It doesn't look like anything else in Destiny, and it's super fun. But I think that it's like you were. I definitely understand what you're saying, and I think that is kind of. I need some of these plot lines to go somewhere and conclude. I think that's 100% a legit criticism. But this dungeon gives me hope that they are going to turning the corner on that stuff, because I think I've explained it here previously, but Josh wasn't here when I did. So this fall, Destiny is what they're doing is they're sunsetting some locations, and they announced this before the season and before this dungeon was live. So like just to give you a quick update, Josh. So like Titan, Io, Mercury, Mars, the Leviathan. I feel like there's another planet I'm forgetting. I think that's all of them.
The Tangled Shore. No, I'm kidding.
Tangled Shore is staying. But
no,
like,
I'm joking. I'm joking.
All of those locations are going to be gone.
Yeah, they're just going to put them in the vault.
They're going in the vault. And that's kind of weird. But in this dungeon, like I said, the dungeon is called Prophecy. And in this dungeon, you go to a part called the Wasteland. And in the Wasteland, like you do like a little puzzle to open up the next encounter. And in the Wasteland, there's like very clear architecture, and it's like, oh, that's the Pyramidion from Io, just like dropped in the sand. Like that's the command center from Mars, just buried in like this waste. Like that's kind of it. Like it is. It's a necessary change. I think. Like I kind of understand the change why they're making it, but like it's really. I kind of just thought they were just gonna like disappear, and no one would ever just be like, oh, we don't go there anymore. There's nothing there anymore. But like to see them like kind of work that change, it clearly implies that like that change is gonna happen. Something is gonna happen to those planets in the game, such that it makes them uninhabitable and unavailable in a way that feels, I guess, like it's a really cool blending of like the mechanics of building this, like trying to continue a life in this game till at least 2022 with a game that came out in 2017 without just expanding the file size indefinitely, and also building that into really interesting changing world in the story itself.
Yeah, that's and my frustration with Destiny 2 has been kind of what you were talking about with this. They keep adding these little story threads and more lore and more plot threads, and don't ever seem to be going anywhere. So like you end Destiny 2 proper with this like overarching sense of like accomplishment, but also dread because there's something lurking in the distance, getting ready to wreck some shit again. but it feels like the nature of the live game aspect of Destiny, it's like without going into Destiny 3 and really just getting into the next real chapter of like Destiny, there are all these other things that are happening that have stakes, and but it seems like we're kind of like treading water and faffing about until
I think
the stakes get real again.
Yeah, like I think definitely like last season felt a lot like that in a way that was a real bummer for a lot of people. But I think because like now, like, you know, do you remember like the big scary triangles from the end of the vanilla campaign in Destiny?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah, now one of those is parked on Io, and it just like one of the first things you see this season in like kind of the first in the story mission that it kind of makes you play is just like that thing is just one of them is just parked right in the skybox of Io. Like it's right there, and like the skyline is like warping around it, and like light is bending around it in like and it's like physically humongous. Like again, like it feels like, I mean, it's a little early to say like what this means for like I'm kind of almost thinking about like this fall, like with them removing kind of like basically removing the vanilla campaign of Destiny 2 and a lot of those early planets. It's like this is almost secretly Destiny 3 this fall.
Yeah,
and with this season, it feels like they might finally start to be cashing some of those checks that they've been holding on to forever. So I definitely agree with the kind of like wheel spinning of like, okay, but nothing. When's something gonna happen?
It's not that feels like it's not that there's nothing cool going on in Destiny.
Yeah.
It really hasn't felt like the last couple of iterations have had any weight.
Like, yeah, it's in a lot of ways. It's like the story has been expanding out, but not forward and converging.
Yes.
And it feels like this season is when it's like I really like what they're doing this season, because it feels like they're finally starting to bring these threads together. Like, and in a lot of the stuff this season so far, like Eris is on like the radio comms with the Drifter, who are like, so it's like it's kind of like, you know, kind of I guess it's like kind of the fun parts of like, you know, a Marvel movie where like characters team up, because it's like you get to see the different personalities like kind of interact and clash, and we don't really get a lot of that, especially between those two characters. So I think they're starting to kind of bring those threads together. I want to see how it plays out long term, but that's mainly what I've been playing a lot of lately. And that new dungeon is a blast, and I am really excited with some of the story hints that they're dropping, because I think they're going to address. I think they're really starting to be able to cash those checks on the story that they've been holding on to for way too long, in my opinion.
So I read this thing a couple weeks ago. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, and I think Josh had to step away clearly for a moment. But I think this is the dichotomy that they were talking about. Like, Destiny 2 is no longer for new players or even casual players. Destiny 2, as Bungie has been publishing it, is specifically for the active core that logs in, does their chores, as I like to call them, and is looking for something new. And they're like, oh, there are a bunch of casual players. Well, come on, you're coming along for the ride, because Destiny and it's okay just to call it Destiny at this point, because it's still a continuation of one. It has its player base. It has established its player base. It has already gone free to play. If new people want to come and play it, they are welcome to. But I think the smartest thing Bungie has done lately is just saying, no, we have our core. We have our very dedicated core. We are building this game for them. So all that good lore stuff, here it is, everybody. Gobble it up. All that good mechanics that you guys love, we're tightening them for you. The game is getting a lot more refined for you. Josh probably doesn't even know that swords are in now. You know that.
Oh my god! Oh, swords are big time in. But what if I told you could skip an entire raid boss by just whacking their hand with swords?
I watched someone do that. Like 6 people, just like
yep.
Just with what's that light spell that wizards can cast?
Well of Radiance.
Well of Radiance, yes, and they're all just glowing like Goku, just messes someone up with a sword, and it's like, okay.
Riven encounter legit is very cool and very well designed, but hey man, I just need the 1K voices and just want to do the Queen's Walk and get out of here.
So
It's
I totally get where someone like Josh is like, I don't. Not to sound dismissive, but it kind of sounds like Josh is like, I don't care, and that's actually okay. Because Bungie's the sad reality is Bungie's doing just fine without you, and they actually it doesn't seem like they have any intent of getting new people. Like they don't have a new player plan.
I think that's definitely like they've said in kind of like past blog posts and stuff that's they've I have always thought that Destiny has been like a very difficult game to get into, even when I started in Destiny 1.
Mm-hmm.
And like looking back, I still definitely had no clue what I was doing in Destiny 1.
The
the
convergence of Warframe and Destiny, it just gets closer and closer every time.
Yeah.
Because you're getting to the point now, especially with everything that they add to Destiny, like that you have to go through to get to some of this late game content. You're getting to the point where you have to have a Sherpa to get you through that beginning, because it is so much stuff and it is so impenetrable without somebody to guide you through. Like at this point, Warframe and Destiny, like they've been the same game for a long time, but it's getting even worse.
It's like it's definitely good that they have like pretty well built out communities on like I think the Reddit and YouTube are helpful, but like they need to it is I think that's definitely something that they've said, and I think I totally agree that like the new player experience, like if you don't have someone to kind of guide you through, is just overwhelming, because like right now if you drop in, every vendor is going to be flashing with like a cajillion weapon quests. Some of those weapons with like the light level changes are not going to be really viable for like end game content going forward, but they'll still be very good for any other end game stuff that's already there now, which is like it's just like there's so many different little things. And I don't know how you would tutorialize all of that in game, but I think definitely that's something that is 100% the weakest part of Destiny, and is something I think they say that they're aware of and are going to be kind of revamping what the new player experience looks like this fall, especially with which makes sense with the Cosmodrome coming back. But that's Mike's Destiny update.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
I
think that's about it.
Hardware. I've got some hardware news.
Josh, the hardware minute. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So there's actually been a lot going on in the hardware tech industry. One of the biggest things, and I'm going to have to try not to gag here, but I do have to speak well of Apple. Apple at its WDC announced that it is moving to its own custom silicon for everything. So their Macs, their MacBooks, everything will be on Apple, their ARM-based processors, things that they've been running in the iPads and iPhones since 2007, ditching a 10-plus year in relationship with Intel. And personally, I think that this is going to have some pretty big impacts on computing going forward in the next decade, with them having such tight control over the platform. I think we're going to see in performance a potential where the Mac might almost justify its cost over a PC, just in the fact that they are going to have such tight control. They are not going to have all the legacy cruft that Intel has. They're going to be able to provide things that compute faster, that at a lower thermal load. I think Linus Tech Tips did a teardown of the MacBook Air and talking about why it was so bad. And the Intel processor in the current 2020 MacBook Air is not actually, it's just kind of passively cooled. It just has some heat pipes. It doesn't have any fan on it. But if you look at the TDP of the ARM chip that they're going to put in it in the next year or so, that chip has a TDP that would work with a cooler that is just a couple heat pipes, doesn't need a fan on it. So like they've kind of built the chassis of the MacBook Air already with that in mind.
Got a question on that.
Yes.
What the hell are you doing on a MacBook Air that justifies huge heat sinks?
I mean, even just doing any sort of like processing that hits your core multiple times, like if you're doing even just light Excel or video and photo editing, like I mean, you're gonna put some load on your processor.
Google Chrome is pretty beastly these days,
Yes, that is true. You put 2 Chrome tabs up, you're using 80% of your processor. Yes, Mike.
I am raising my hand because I would like to announce that EVE Online has been officially canceled.
Wait,
we
has
couldn't
it really?
even end the podcast without it.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah, check Twitter. You'll see it.
There you go. It happened live on the
show.
Live breaking news from that news that was already broken by other.
I told you, without Street Fighter, there ain't no Evo.
Yeah, that happened.
Because I'm sure Mortal Kombat didn't do it, Mike.
Yeah.
They were gonna go on without Mortal Kombat.
We here at Mortal Kombat love sexual harassment, so we are sticking it out, folks.
Yeah,
that is not parody. They did not say that. Oh my god, I'm kidding. Oh yeah, and 4 hours ago, Sonic Fox said he wasn't competing because of that. I should have seen that then. If you're not gonna you can't have EVO without Sonic Fox. Come on.
Wow. So yeah, that happened live. So right, the point where you're supposed to edit in you saying that quick update, you can just edit that part out because we don't need it. Because it happens.
Oh, Jesus. Bill Clinton is trending on Twitter. Don't click it. Don't click it. Don't click it.
Oh, God.
Please go ahead. Anyways, Josh.
And yeah, Apple's moving to custom silicon. I think that other manufacturers, like namely Microsoft, are really going to look at this and see how this goes in the next few years. Because honestly, I could see other people ditching x86 and ditching Intel or even AMD processors to get on their own architecture to leave some of that old world cruft behind, not load anything off of the app store onto their personal computer. I don't necessarily know that they would go that route, but I'm sure they're thinking about it. The other thing I had was just some shady internal discussions from Intel trying to I don't want to say mislead some of their partners, but they're kind of misleading their partners, trying to show that they are quote unquote so much better than AMD in gaming and other applications when they're not even using like to like comparisons. So, in one slide they showed a laptop and just some gaming performance where they're saying like, oh, in these games the Intel 10th gen platform performs 20 to 25% better, and in a very, very small area they're like, oh, both of these laptops had RTX 2060 cards. The thing they fail to mention is the graphics card in the Intel platform is a full fat 2060 with a 70 watt TDP, while the AMD one is a mobile version that hasn't gone through this refresh and only has a 45 watt TDP. So if the graphics card doesn't have the same output, then obviously the performance is going to be different because the graphics card is different. It just and they do some other things where they talk about some areas where they are quote unquote better than Ryzen, but they are not using some of the most up-to-date Ryzen chips, or they're not using the most actually accurate representations of things that people use on a day-to-day basis. And it's just one of those situations where I think Intel is feeling the burn of Ryzen and AMD on their heels, stealing their market share. And instead of saying hey, here are areas where we are not winning and here are areas we are winning, they're just clutching at any straw to say no, we're still relevant, trust us. 14 nanometer plus is gonna be amazing.
Plus.
I want to say that their newest chips are 14 nanometer plus at least, if not plus. It's come on, guys, get to 10
what
nanometers.
What does the plus
already.
mean?
I mean, they're just improving on 14 nanometer because they can't get to 10, even though AMD's already on 7.
Yeah,
and
AMD got to 10 in 2018, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, The Ryzen 3000 series are 7 nanometer, and there's some rumors that 4000 could go even smaller. So like, come on guys, pick it up. So yeah, the the chip marketplace has not been this interesting in a decade, and now in the last few years, like it is like it's anybody's ball game. Like it's all up in the air. So
remember the days where you bought AMD because it was cheap, but you knew the Intel cards were always better? Those were the days. Now it's an actual race again, and I can appreciate that.
I mean, if you want to get really crazy in ARM news, like there's a silicon startup that's actually getting ready to
they're announcing
launch,
Silicon 2,
a 128 core server processor. Like they already have some like 80 core variants that are getting ready to come out, and they're all ARM based and running in server farms, and like some big names in server industries are like taking orders and really interested in this. So like the processor world is it's all up for grabs right now. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next. It's been interesting, and it'll be interesting to see what continues to happen in this fascinating world, especially with the rumored Ryzen 4000 series launching this year. So
that was not a tech minute. That was a tech 7 minutes.
Well, you know what? There's a lot of tech.
I'm joking.
There's a lot of tech out there. That's a lot of tech.
I'm joking.
I could keep going.
I know. We need like a separate 30-minute podcast. Much like Mike has his Creed got robbed, Josh has like Josh's Tech Minute, and it's literally like a 2-hour long podcast.
There we go.
Anyways, I think that settles it for the night, boys.
I think that's a good place to wrap up.
With Evo being canceled immediately. Wow. They did just do that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sick of fireworks. But you know what I'm not sick of?
Oh, here we go.
What's that?
Following Unscripted Gaming everywhere on the internet so you can get up-to-date information on when new podcasts are released. You can follow us on YouTube at Unscripted Gaming. You can follow us on Facebook. Just search Unscripted Gaming. On Twitter at unscript_gaming. You can get us on Google Play. You can get us on Apple. You can get us on Stitcher. You can get us on Pocket Cast. You can get us on SoundCloud. Anywhere. Get us in your ears. Also, unscriptedgaming.com. You can get us everywhere you want to be. So thank you for listening to Unscripted Gaming. My name is Josh.
My name is Ray.
My name is Mike.
Peace.